Hello everybody, welcome back to AGB Cars. Today we will be beginning the analysis on the final preseason test of the 2015 season, the second of the Barcelona tests, and again a 4-day test, and all of which will be covered here on the AGB Cars channel. So stay tuned for all of that. We're just gonna dive straight into the lap times today and the laps. So, as you can see, it was the Williams of Felipe Massa who topped the timesheets this morning. This, like Williams, over the past few tests, over the Jerez test and the first Barcelona test, said that they weren't really working on speed and it was more the reliability end of things. So now that that's sorted, they're starting to work on the speed and performance end of things, which is always a good sign. And a fantastic lap from Felipe Massa, really showing what the car is able to do here. He did a 1:23.5, which is the fastest time in Barcelona this year, and a whole half a second clear of the second fastest, which it was in the 1:24s by Roman Grosjean on the Super Softs last week in Barcelona. So this was on the soft tires as well, which theoretically gives him another second of an advantage. So practically 2.5 seconds quicker than the Lotus, if you're to presume that Lotus were running similarly to Williams in the way of fuel loads and setup and so forth. So yeah, they're finally starting to show their pace, which is good, because we know obviously that Mercedes has a quick car. We know that Ferrari has a reasonably quick car, and now we know that Williams has a quick car as well. So yeah, soft tire and a very quick lap for the soft tire. You remember that on the final day of the second preseason test in Barcelona, that I think it was Nico Rosberg did a 1:24.5, I think, on the medium tires. So theoretically, it's a second lap quicker on the soft tire. So pretty evenly matched between the Mercedes and the Williams from what we have seen so far, which has to be a good sign on Williams' half if they seem to be competing with Mercedes. And obviously as well, reliable car the Williams is. Massa completed 103 laps today, and I mean, reliability last year was really their thing. They had the Mercedes engine, which of course never let them down at all really, and they weren't one of the teams who went mad on the cooling end of things and tried to shrink the bodywork as much as possible around the rear of the car. They left it open allowed for good cooling, so they weren't over ambitious really with the performance, and that paid off last year. So this year I expect no worse in terms of reliability, and so certainly things looking good for the Williams team. Then we go down to Marcus Ericsson's Sauber in second position, 1:24.27 tenths off the Williams, but he was the busiest man of the day on 122 laps, which is fantastic. He was on the super soft for his quick lap, which was almost a second off the Williams' soft tyre run. So theoretically, if you're to take all the tyre, what Pirelli tells you about how faster each tyre should be than another, then the Sauber is 2 seconds a lap slower than the Williams. So bad news for them if they were trying to run quickly there. But yeah, so not too quick, but they are reliable, which is what we were saying in Jerez particularly. They did loads and loads of laps with the Ferrari engine, and the Ferrari engine has done a lot of mileage, both in the Ferrari of course and the Sauber, which I said in previous videos that I think means that they feel that they have a quick car, so they're just going into the reliability and the things. So that's encouraging, I suppose. And another thing, Sauber, they were doing race simulations today with Marcus Ericsson. Yeah. So then Mercedes were third with Lewis Hamilton in the car. Not too many laps though, only 48. But that 48 laps does bring them over the 1,000 lap mark for pre-season testing, which is astonishing. I'd say that's probably one of the only times that's ever been done. So yeah, certainly encouraging. We know that Mercedes will be a very reliable car, and all bets are that it'll be a very quick car as well. So Hamilton was on the medium tires in the Mercedes for his quick time, which was just over second off the Williams. So yeah, as I said, pretty evenly matched between them, if you're to take the tire differences into consideration. But then they had kind of an uncharacteristic issue in the afternoon, let's say. They only completed 48 laps, and that was because of a failure somewhere in the hybrid system that they found, which halted procedures of day one of testing. And that was later diagnosed as a MGUK issue. So that's the energy recovery system of K. That's the kinetic one that's connected to the drive shafts, which works under braking and is the one that's been implemented over the previous few years. So issue there, unusual. I mean, last year we didn't even see any real issues in the powertrain for Mercedes. So is it maybe that they're trying to be a bit too ambitious and trying to get too much performance out of it without thinking of the reliability? Maybe, we'll have to see. So that's the story with Mercedes. Then Red Bull Racing, Daniel Kvyat was in the car today, and he did a 125.9, 2.5 seconds off Massa, and a total lap count of 75. They did cause a red flag this morning as well when they stopped at the end of the pit lane, and it was only a small issue that was fixed very quickly, but Kvyat stopped unexpectedly at the end of the pit lane, causing a red flag, but was quickly taken back in to the Red Bull garage, where it was swiftly fixed and he was able to get back on his way. He was on the medium tires also, which, I mean, obviously Red Bull today weren't really attempting speed runs. It was more reliability, and 75 laps isn't too bad. But yeah, no main issues then today for Red Bull. But we know, of course, that the Renault engines will probably be the weakest this year, and Red Bull have criticised Renault in some ways. Ricciardo and Christian Horner have both said that Renault are not where sort of Red Bull and the team want them to be in terms of engine development, and in all this, then Renault even said that they don't even know if they'll be in F1 in the next few years. They don't. If they're not successful in making a good engine, they might just quit it altogether and focus their efforts somewhere else. So we have to see how things pan out there. And then going down to someone who had a Renault engine but switched to Mercedes' Lotus, and Romain Grosjean was 5th fastest today, 126.1. He completed 75 laps, same as Kvyat. Before talk about what Lotus did today, I also want to mention that they signed up Carmen Jorda. She is now the development driver at Lotus, and this is exactly what they called Susie Wolff's role at Williams last year, and now of course she's their test third and reserve driver. So that's another sort of step in terms of women in Formula 1, which I am all for, and I think it's great to see more women in the sport. So back to Barcelona now. Lotus were working on setup today, studying new geometry of the car and focusing efforts on the front suspension. and they were on the soft tire, which their quickest laps on the soft tire. So obviously, I mean, no attempt at going quick there, because if they tried, they would be quicker than that. 1:26 on soft tires. That's the same tire that Massa was on, and they're 2.5 seconds off. So yeah, no, Lotus won't be the leading car, but it certainly won't be that slow this year either. Ferrari were next. Kimi Räikkönen in the car today was sixth fastest, 1:26.3 and 80 laps, and he was on the medium tires like the Mercedes and Red Bull. He so like no really, again, no effort or attempt at a quick run today, just on reliability work really. They're working on setup and understanding fuel loads in the car, but they admitted that their running was hampered a bit by the light rain that was seen during the day but quickly passed. So yeah, that's the Ferrari. Then we go down to Toro Rosso, and Carlos Sainz, or Chili as he prefers to be called, Chili Sainz, was seventh fastest, or second slowest maybe, if that's more understandable. 1:26.9, 3.5 seconds off on the mediums. So again, just like they aren't trying to go quick there. Good amount of laps, 86. But the most interesting thing in the Toro Rosso is that they've changed their front wing. If you remember, in Jerez and Barcelona, they did have a kind of long, swooping, flat kind of nose that could be likened to the front wing on the Ferrari and the McLaren, and that's it. But they've abandoned that now, and today they ran with a shorter stub nose version of this is kind of like what the Williams has, and to an extent, and the Red Bull, and then to an extent what the Mercedes has. Very kind of, it's not coming out as much. It's a bit, some people may think it's uglier. I think the Williams solution of this idea is very nice. I think it's one of the nicest noses. But yeah, just interesting that they've changed the front wing. And yeah, so that's all for Toro Rosso then today. Last place is Jenson Button. Surprise, surprise, in the McLaren. Things just going from bad to worse with this team, really. Just a total and utter tragedy, really. No mileage again today, only 7 laps, and more unreliability for the McLaren and the Honda engine. Of course, after Fernando had a crash on the final day of the second test, he was hospitalised but has been released, thankfully, I'm happy to say, and is ready to drive again, but will not drive at this test, just for precautionary reasons, I suppose. So we will see Kevin Magnussen back in the car. Not too long ago he was in Abu Dhabi racing, so he's going to be back in the car. He's the test driver for McLaren now, so we'll see him out this week. But yeah, so McLaren 8 seconds off the lead, and just utter disaster. They had a hydraulic leak today which stopped running, and so they're going to try and fix that overnight and hopefully be back in running tomorrow. So yeah, so that's all for today. Look forward to doing analysis on day 2, so stay tuned for that. Until then, it's goodbye and thank you for listening.